Backlash is this Sunday on pay-per-view and on the WWE Network. It's another show from the WWE Performance Center with 0 fans in attendance, but it will be a pay-per-view finally that has some people in the crowd, the NXT Performance Center recruits, NXT superstars, whatever you want to call them. We're going to have some people in there, and it definitely helped for the atmosphere, didn't it? If you watched NXT TakeOver in your house, it certainly helped with the atmosphere there, and it's helped with the atmosphere on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT since they came back. Now, at the time of recording, we're recording this on Saturday afternoon, so that's 24 hours before Backlash goes live on the air. There are 7 matches announced, so we're going to go through a bit of a preview and predictions for this event. Now, there could be a couple more matches that get added. There is going to be a pre-show. And after SmackDown last night, I think we could get a SmackDown Tag Team Championship added. So if that does get added, we'll let you know on social media. But I think we could see the New Day defending the SmackDown Tag Team Championships against Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Last night on SmackDown, Nakamura and Cesaro defeated the New Day with Nakamura pinning Kofi Kingston. So if we get a SmackDown Tag Team title match, I think we're going to have the New Day retain. It certainly could be added to the pre-show, but as of yet, it is not official. So let's go through the matches and do a bit of a preview and predictions. So the first match, singles match for the United States Championship, we have United States Champion Apollo Crews defending against Andrade with Zelina Vega. Now, this match was made official this past week on Raw, with Andrade winning a number 1 contendership triple threat match against Kevin Owens and Angel Garza. Now, during the, whilst Raw was airing this past Monday, I mentioned that I would have really enjoyed to see Apollo Crews versus Angel Garza, but WWE booking, it makes me laugh because do you remember, it was sometime last year they mentioned that they were doing away with rematch clause. If you lost the championship, you didn't automatically get a rematch for the title, because the reason they went away with it is because people were finally calling them out, saying that it was a load of rubbish, it was lazy booking, and it was just an easy way to set up a match. It wasn't creative. And it makes me laugh because they said, okay, we're doing away from rematches, and they still do them. They just find a different way to do them. Instead of saying, we're invoking your rematch clause, they'll go, okay, we're going to have a number 1 contenders match. And guess what? The person who just lost the title wins it. Wouldn't you know it? So this is another rematch from Raw a few weeks ago when Apollo Crews won the United States Championship. In terms of the match on Raw a few weeks ago, it was fine. I enjoyed the match. The finish kind of came out of nowhere. What was it, a standing moonsault or something like that? And Apollo Crews won it. I don't expect Apollo Crews to drop the title anytime soon, so I'm going to go with Apollo Crews to retain here. Like I said, the match itself should be fine. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Angel Garza get involved with Zelina Vega at ringside, but they've been teasing between Andrade and Angel Garza that there's been a lot of miscommunication, so Andrade could be turning babyface in the future and splitting with Zelina Vega, or vice versa with Angel Garza, so I wouldn't be surprised if Angel Garza gets involved but it goes wrong. Or take a look out for Kevin Owens in this one as well. Kevin Owens has been involved with the whole Apollo Crews versus Andrade versus Angel Garza situation. So if Angel Garza does get involved, maybe Kevin Owens also gets involved here and makes sure that Apollo Crews wins this one. So the match itself should be fine, but I'm thinking that Apollo Crews wins this one. Next up, we have a triple threat tag team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. Champions Bayley and Sasha Banks. Bayley, of course, being the SmackDown Women's Champion also, goes up against former champions Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and the Iconics Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. Now, I've got to credit WWE. I've been quite critical of a lot of things in WWE recently, but I've got to credit them where credit is due. And the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship have been more relevant and feel more prestigious than they've ever felt since they were created last year by WWE. You had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross appearing on both Raw and SmackDown, feuding with the Iconics on Monday Night Raw, feuding with Bayley and Sasha Banks on SmackDown. Then, recently, a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown, Bayley and Sasha Banks defeated Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross in what I think was a surprising victory. I didn't see it coming, but it was absolutely the correct decision to do at the time, and I'll go into that in a second why. But Bayley and Sasha Banks, they've appeared on Monday Night Raw also. They've been feuding with the Iconics now on Monday Night Raw, and they're continuing to feud with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross on SmackDown. Now, why was it right to have Bayley and Sasha Banks win the Women's Tag Team Championships? Well, This Bayley-Sasha Banks feud is simmering very, very nicely, and they don't need to be too quick to pull the trigger on the match. Save the match for a big event, and I say let's draw it out longer than SummerSlam. We don't know what's going to happen with SummerSlam. We don't know where it's going to be. Of course, originally it was scheduled for Boston. It's not going to be in Boston. Is it even going to have many fans or any fans in attendance? I don't know. I think that would be pushing it, to be honest. I would rather than wait till it's completely safe for fans to be in attendance. So I say hold it out longer, this Bayley-Sasha Banks feud. And having them be the women's tag team champions is the perfect way to do it. Because you still have these slight arguments, these subtle hints, planting the seeds for their eventual split up. Bayley, taking Sasha Banks for granted when Sasha Banks is the one doing all of the work. And then eventually, when they lose the Women's Tag Team Championship, that's the catalyst to have the Bayley and Sasha Banks feud and split up. Then you can have a Bayley versus Sasha Banks match. If you can stretch it out to WrestleMania next year, do it at WrestleMania. If you can't hold out that long, hey, why don't you do an all-women's pay-per-view in October, do an Evolution 2, have that be the main event of the show, Bayley versus Sasha Banks. The matches that they had in NXT, the 2 NXT TakeOver matches, the Brooklyn one and the Iron Man match, that is a match that should main event the second Evolution pay-per-view. So it's absolutely the correct decision to have them be the women's tag team champions at the moment. Also, another thing to consider is that the winner of this match will be going to NXT this Wednesday night to defend the championships against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. So again, credit to WWE for using the Women's Tag Team Championships properly, having them appear on all 3 brands. That was the great thing when these titles were introduced. They said they can be defended on any brand. The champions are going to be roaming champions, appearing on all different kinds of brands and interacting with different kinds of superstars. It makes the titles feel important. It makes them feel prestigious. So credit to credit where credit is due for WWE on that point. In terms of who do I think is going to win, I'd be surprised if Bayley and Sasha Banks drop the titles so quickly after winning them. Like I said, I think these are the perfect times to use the tag team championships to make the feud between Bayley and Sasha Banks simmer. These tag team titles are going to be the catalyst for the breakup between the two, so I don't think they should be losing them anytime soon. I think that should be way down the line, closer to if they have a second Evolution pay-per-view, or heck, hold them off till WrestleMania. So I'm going to go with Bayley and Sasha Banks here, but I think we should have a decent tag team match. Next up, we have Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus, and if you want to know my thoughts on that Jeff Hardy public urine test, we made a video on it. Go watch it on there. I don't want to talk about it again because, my lord, it was awful. This whole angle is awful. The segments have been awful. I don't blame Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. It's not their fault. The creative here is the problem. Why they are capitalizing on Jeff Hardy's personal demons for public and financial gain, I have no idea. This isn't like when they've done it in the past with Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, because they were way past their demons at that point. Jeff Hardy's last DUI was in October of 2019, and it's not even finished in a legal court of law yet. It's not even done. Because of the whole pandemic situation at the moment, the courts are backed up. Some things have been postponed and laid off. It's not even finished yet, and they're already promoting it for financial gain. This whole angle is awful. These segments have been awful. The less said about them, the better. This is the kind of creative that Bruce Pritchard is bringing to Monday Night Raw. So expect to see more pee flying around all over the place on Monday nights, this time for 3 hours. How Fox paid $1 billion for public urination tests and Shorty G and dog food segments and people in dog costumes, I don't know. But back to this match, I'm sure the match itself will be fine. I think Jeff Hardy gets the win here. It doesn't make any sense for him not to get the win. Why on earth would you have Jeff Hardy go through all of this? Sheamus call him a junkie and not being trustworthy. Is he on pills? Is he on drugs? Is he drinking? Etc, etc. And then have Sheamus beat him. You wouldn't do that. The babyface should prevail here. And then hopefully Jeff Hardy can actually move on and go on to an angle more substantive and something more worthwhile. Because the creative for this is awful. Now, let's not rule out the hacker in all of this. Now, Jeff Hardy has said that the multiple witnesses at the police station when he was taken to, when he did the drunken hit and run on Elias, Jeff Hardy passed all the field sobriety tests. and the witnesses said that the person that attacked Jeff Hardy had red hair and a red beard. Now, they haven't confirmed that this is Sheamus. I think they've been very cautious with the language used there, so I don't think it is Sheamus that is the one that attacked Jeff Hardy. I think it could be someone else. Now, who could that someone else be? I'll leave that up to you. WWE has a history of booking these things with no idea who the actual culprit is, so we'll have to wait and see who it is. But the person that it will reveal who is the one to attack Jeff Hardy, I think will be the SmackDown hacker. We've seen them use footage in the past with the Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, Dolph Ziggler and Otis feud. He revealed the injustice set up by Sonya Deville and Dolph Ziggler, and I think the SmackDown hacker will do that again here. So I think Jeff Hardy wins. I think maybe there could be a post-match angle, and on the post-match angle, the SmackDown hacker comes up. Maybe the SmackDown hacker is actually revealed, and they reveal the injustice of the person who actually set up Jeff Hardy. So I think Jeff Hardy wins, but we might see a little bit more, and hopefully, this awful angle and awful feud is finally over. Next up, we have the WWE Raw Women's Championship on the line. Asuka is defending the Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax. Now, I think it was pretty obvious that Asuka was always going to win this one. Nia Jax is continuing her reputation for being dangerous and hurting people recently. That's getting a lot of people talking on social media, or it certainly has. And I think WWE has already moved on. If you watch Monday Night Raw this week, we did a video on this in the week. Monday Night Raw was the Charlotte Flair show. It was all about Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. So I think the next feud after Backlash is Charlotte Flair versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship as we head into the summer. Whether they'll have a match at Extreme Rules or most likely, I think, SummerSlam. The Nia Jax feud has almost been a forgotten point. Now, Nia Jax did get involved on Raw this week to cost Asuka a match against Charlotte Flair. I don't think Charlotte Flair gets involved in this one, but I think Asuka defeats Nia Jax pretty comfortably. It's a pretty obvious match. Nia Jax is no way winning the Raw Women's Championship here. It makes no sense for Asuka to drop the title. And like I said, they've already started the Asuka versus Charlotte Flair feud. They had them team up and actually beat the tag team champions and an established tag team on Raw Monday. So that does a lot for the women's tag team title match, doesn't it? Earlier on in the evening. Because if Charlotte Flair and Asuka were competing in a match, they'd win, by all accounts, even though they're not an established tag team. Lord knows I hated the booking on that one. But Asuka here, I think she'll beat Nia Jax. This feud has been largely forgettable, to be honest. The thing that's got the people talking the most was Nia Jax hurting Kairi Sane potentially 2 times in a row and starting that whole conversation about whether Nia Jax is dangerous and whether she should be in the ring or not. So I expect Asuka to get the win in this one. The match itself should be fine. But again, I think WWE has stopped caring about this feud also, as well as the audience, because they've already moved on to Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. So not a lot to talk about here, really. As I mentioned, Asuka will get the victory. She'll get payback for Nia Jax costing her on Monday Night Raw. Every interaction they've had so far in this feud, Asuka has got the better of her, whether it's attacking her in the ring after Nia Jax interrupted Asuka's championship celebration, whether it's attacking Nia Jax backstage after Nia Jax attacked Kairi Sane and her flute. Maybe Kairi Sane gets involved, gets some redemption after Nia Jax injured her. Maybe we see Kairi Sane involved here, but I don't think Asuka's going to drop the title here. They've already moved on to the Charlotte Flair feud, so it's going to be Asuka with the victory here. Next up, we have Braun Strowman defending the WWE Universal Championship against The Miz and John Morrison in a 2-on-1 handicap match for the WWE Universal Championship. Again, this has been another one that's been a largely forgotten about feud, to be honest. The build, considering this is a World Championship match, has not been the best. I was not a fan at all of Miz and Morrison's pranks against Braun Strowman the other week on SmackDown. The slime, the exploding protein shake. Just another example of the great creative that is coming to Monday Night Raw soon with Bruce Pritchard in charge of both shows now. I did like Miz and Morrison smashing up Braun Strowman's car. That's the kind of stuff that gets things heated. But again, the feud's been largely forgettable. It's been filler for the returning Bray Wyatt, I think, who's going to come back soon. Obviously, you had the Braun Strowman-Bray Wyatt feud at Money in the Bank, and a lot of people thought, well, why did this not continue post-Money in the Bank? Well, that's because Bray Wyatt and his wife JoJo had their second child. So Bray Wyatt's been off of TV for the last few weeks, and obviously with WWE taping multiple shows at once now due to the current pandemic, if he's off for a week, he's off for like 3 or 4 weeks of television. So he just hasn't been involved in the Backlash build. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Having Bray Wyatt off TV, keeping him fresh, keeping The Fiend fresh. You got to remember, we haven't seen The Fiend now since WrestleMania, since that match with John Cena. We haven't seen The Fiend on SmackDown since the last SmackDown before WrestleMania against John Cena also. So keeping him off of TV isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think Braun Strowman obviously wins this one. We're not going to have The Miz and John Morrison be co-Universal Champions because, I mean, it would just be a joke, wouldn't it, really? So I think Braun Strowman's going to retain here. But I think post-match is where we have Bray Wyatt to return. Most importantly, we have The Fiend return. I think The Fiend will return here, attack Braun Strowman. That picks up their feud where it left off at Money in the Bank. Obviously, Braun Strowman defeated Bray Wyatt at the Money in the Bank, but he hasn't come face-to-face yet with The Fiend. I think this is where it will happen. So Braun Strowman wins. Post-match, we have The Fiend come out, attack Braun Strowman, leave him laying, and that picks up the Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman feud heading into the summer. Whether we have the Braun Strowman versus The Fiend match at Extreme Rules, I'm not sure. Maybe they'll hold that one off, but I think definitely we'll see Braun Strowman versus The Fiend at SummerSlam. Now, let's not rule out Otis here as well. Otis has been teaming with Braun Strowman recently on SmackDown. Of course, Otis is Mr. Money in the Bank after winning the Money in the Bank at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Now, some people are saying, well, maybe Otis is going to cash in. I don't think they'll do it this quickly. They might tease it, maybe. They could possibly tease it. Or they could have Otis versus King Corbin on the show. Otis attacked King Corbin backstage last night after King Corbin went up to Mandy Rose. Otis wore King Corbin's crown the other week. Again, great creative there. So maybe we'll have an Otis versus King Corbin match on the show or the pre-show. But we might have an Otis tease of cashing in after this match. I don't think he will. The only way I could see him possibly cashing in is if The Fiend leaves Braun Strowman laying and then you have Otis come out and cash in. I just don't think they will. The only reason I could say is a benefit of if he did cash in here. So the way I would pitch it is The Fiend comes out, leaves Braun Strowman laying, beats the hell out of him. Otis cashing in and becoming Universal Champion would be a positive then, because you have a Braun Strowman versus The Fiend feud, but you don't paint yourself or book yourself into the corner of having The Fiend be in a title match whereby The Fiend can't lose because he's The Fiend. But if he wins, he becomes Universal Champion, and then you have the same problem as you had before earlier this year. How do you defeat The Fiend? Because he shouldn't lose. And then you book yourself into a corner of having The Fiend versus Goldberg, and then Goldberg beats him. That's what happened earlier this year. So I hope WWE wouldn't make the same mistake again. If you're going to book The Fiend against Braun Strowman with the Universal Championship, The Fiend has to win. The Fiend has to win. And now they got away with it at Money in the Bank because Braun Strowman faced Bray Wyatt. So it looks like they are actually on top of this thing. But who knows if Otis will cash in or not. But I think The Fiend will appear, and most importantly, Braun Strowman will retain here. Next up, we have the WWE Championship on the line. WWE Champion Drew McIntyre defends against Bobby Lashley with MVP in Bobby Lashley's corner. Now, of course, this is the first time Bobby Lashley has received a WWE Championship opportunity since 2007. Credit to WWE, they've built Bobby Lashley back up well after some horrendous booking since he returned back in 2018. This is a compelling one for me because there have been rumours that Bobby Lashley was going in line for a major push, and Paul Heyman, we'll go back to this in a second, Paul Heyman wanted MVP to become a mouthpiece for a world champion, that world champion being Bobby Lashley. So had I made this video a couple of days ago, I would have said that Bobby Lashley could definitely have a chance of winning the WWE Championship here. But only a couple of days ago, Paul Heyman was removed from the executive director position of Monday Night Raw. Apparently, he was a huge fan of Bobby Lashley. Of course, he's a huge fan of MVP. But now that Paul Heyman is no longer in charge on Raw, I think it's very, very, very unlikely that Bobby Lashley wins this one. We've heard rumours and reports ever since Paul Heyman departed that position that people who were getting pushes on Monday nights, I think of Andrade, I think of Angel Garza, Zelina Vega, Austin Theory, Bobby Lashley, MVP, those pushes might be disappearing now. And with Bruce Pritchard in charge, who's to say he's a fan of Bobby Lashley or MVP or not? Now, Bruce Pritchard had worked with Bobby Lashley in Impact, so there is a relationship there, but I don't think Bobby Lashley, or any chance that Bobby Lashley had of becoming WWE Champion, is going to end now. I think some people were suggesting that with the whole Black Lives Matter movement at the moment, possibly they put the WWE Championship on an African American in Bobby Lashley and have MVP as his mouthpiece. Look, I said it the other day on one of our videos, if there was ever a time to put the title on Lashley, look, he's 45, 44 years old. They got to do something with him soon. His peak may have already passed, but this just isn't the time. It is not the time. Drew McIntyre is the guy on Monday Night Raw. I think he's done a great job as WWE Champion considering the circumstances. He's had no fans, empty arenas, and he's still done well. You got to remember how over Drew McIntyre was prior to the whole pandemic era that we're living in now. He was over with the audience. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman made him look like $1 million every week on Raw, made him look like $1 million at WrestleMania. He defeated Brock Lesnar in a matter of minutes and the Big Show on the same night of WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre needs to win, and keep winning. That's the way to keep elevating him to the status that he needs to be at. He can be the next big star in WWE. He can be the next John Cena. He just needs to win. And I know some people are going to say, well, every time the last few years they've tried to do this with a babyface, they've had him win. The fans turned against him. I think Drew McIntyre has a lot more faith from the fans than the likes of Seth Rollins and the likes of Roman Reigns, because they like Drew McIntyre. He's genuine. He isn't putting his foot in his mouth with comments like Seth Rollins was last year. He isn't a corny babyface. He's believable. This is not the right time for Drew McIntyre to drop the title, regardless of what is going on in the world and regardless of the changes that are going on backstage at the moment. So I think Drew McIntyre retains here. I think any chance of Bobby Lashley winning died when Paul Heyman left his position. So I wouldn't be surprised if Drew McIntyre got the victory here. Also, factor in, we've noticed that Lana has been told to disappear from Bobby Lashley's matches. Don't be at ringside when Bobby Lashley's having his matches. She appeared ringside when MVP went against Drew McIntyre on Raw this past Monday. So again, I think Lana could factor into the finish here. Maybe she costs Bobby Lashley the match, then Bobby Lashley requests a divorce, or maybe Lana requests a divorce. Who knows? Hey, maybe that'll finally be the end of the Bobby Lashley-Lana angle. But I think Drew McIntyre is going to retain the title here. And finally, we have our main event. It's Edge versus Randy Orton in just a singles wrestling match. The greatest wrestling match ever has been the tagline we have heard for the longest time. It appears in this pandemic era. WWE loves their taglines, don't they? They just have to have their taglines. Money in Bank, wasn't it? Was it Risk versus Reward? And this one's been the greatest wrestling match ever. Now, I think this match is going to be... first of all, this match has already been shot. It was pre-recorded on June 7, 2020. So last week at this point. I think the fact that it's already been pre-recorded means it's going to be a cinematic match. We've been seeing cinematic matches on every pay-per-view during this era. No complaints from me. I think the cinematic matches have been great. Obviously, the Boneyard match, Firefly Funhouse. I thought the Money in the Bank ladder matches were great as well. So I think Edge versus Randy Orton in a cinematic style, I look forward to it. And if you're going to hype a match as the greatest wrestling match ever, why not have the pomp and circumstance of a Hollywood blockbuster? Look, it's an awful tagline. I really do sympathise for Edge and Randy Orton, because in every interview they've done, they spoke about saying, look, I'd rather they not call it the greatest wrestling match ever, because it's not going to be the best wrestling match ever. It just isn't. There are so many matches that are going to be better and are better. This match, it might be great. It might be great. Even if they had a 5-star match in this main event, it would still not be the greatest wrestling match ever. It won't be. It just won't be. Now, I think they could get around this tagline in a couple of ways. If they have a bit of a screwy finish, they can say, oh, you ruined the greatest wrestling match ever. That's a good way to get heat. So if Randy Orton won, you would say, Randy, you ruined what could have been the greatest wrestling match ever. You had to taint your legacy. We were having something spectacular, something historic, and you ruined it by using some underhanded tactic. That could work. That could work. I still rather them not call it the greatest wrestling match ever. But okay, that's fine. I'd be down for that. But in terms of the tagline, yeah, not good. And I think Edge feels like he has to have some form of redemption here. He returned at WrestleMania, And look, I didn't have really much of a problem with their last man standing match at WrestleMania. I thought it was good. It was long. I'll give that to people. People were very critical of how long their last man standing match was at WrestleMania, but I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it needed to be that long, but it got a lot of criticism. And I think Edge responded quite prickly to that. He was a bit disappointed that there wasn't universal acclaim. And I think he's trying to right a wrong here. I really do. Now, it's been reported that this match was actually scheduled for SummerSlam. This was a rematch that was scheduled for SummerSlam. But due to the whole pandemic era that we're living in at the moment, Vince McMahon decided to change creative plans and move this up to Backlash, try and get people watching Backlash. It hasn't helped people watching Raw because that rating is going down every week. I must say, though, the promo work between Edge and Randy Orton and Christian when he's been involved in this feud have been excellent. World-class promos by two world-class athletes and two world-class wrestlers. Their ability here isn't in doubt. Edge and Randy Orton are two of the best ever to step foot in a WWE ring. Edge is a Hall of Famer. Randy Orton is a surefire Hall of Famer in the future. You know, Randy Orton spoke about he wants to wrestle till he's 50. So we got 10 more years of the Viper in WWE before he goes into the Hall of Fame. There is no doubt they can put on a fantastic match, and I think a cinematic element is going to add to that. It's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever, though. Those expectations are just way too high. I think what they can do, though, is they can use it. They can use it, have a weird finish, and say, Randy Orton, you ruined it. You ruined the greatest wrestling match ever. So I'd like to have Randy Orton win here, because then the greatest wrestling match ever tagline makes sense. I just don't think Randy Orton is going to win, though. I think Edge wins, unless they're going for a trilogy of matches. Unless you have Edge win at WrestleMania, Randy Orton win at Backlash, and then you have the final match at SummerSlam. But I'm still going to go with Edge to win this one. I don't see him doing a job on his second return back, unless they want to play up this element of doubt. That's been, for me, the best part of this build-up. It hasn't been the tagline, it's been this element of doubt. Can I still do it? Edge spoke about being out the ring 9 years. The whole point of this feud is that, you know, you beat me in a gimmick match where with weapons and chairs and tables and ladders. But can you really wrestle anymore? That's what this feud should have been about. It shouldn't have been about the greatest wrestling match ever. It should have been about doubt, self-doubt. Edge had to be hyped up by Christian on Raw. You know, he said the greatest wrestling match ever. You couldn't even do that in your prime. You know, and that kind of stuff works. That kind of stuff's been great. It didn't need the tagline. It should have been Edge saying, I don't know if I can do it anymore. Randy Orton's called me out. I've been taken aback. Can I even wrestle anymore? Am I good enough? That promos by Edge, those promos by Randy Orton, the promos by Christian could have sold me on this feud. I'd have been buzzing and hyped to see this main event had you not called it the greatest wrestling match ever. It didn't need the tagline. If anything, the tagline has done its job because it's got people talking about the match. Again, it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever, but it's got people talking. And maybe that's all WWE cares about. Not about the quality of the match, but the fact people are talking about it because the tagline is so ridiculous. As I mentioned, though, I think Edge wins this one, but I would like to see Randy Orton win this one and then actually have a trilogy, a final one at SummerSlam. But of course, it's just one man's opinion, prediction, and preview. What are your predictions for Backlash tonight? Which match are you most looking forward to? Which match do you think is going to steal the show? Do you think we're going to see any surprises? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms on the screen right now. Happy Backlash weekend. Hope you enjoy the show, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.